Okay, oh my God. Get right into it. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be a little different. It's going to be a sit down and chat. Whenever you guys send me messages with questions, I try to answer them as much as possible, but there are always questions where I feel like if I had 2 to 3 pages to type up, I could really answer it. And so those are the types of questions I want to answer today. So I hope you enjoyed today's video. One of you asked, what's one piece of advice you would give to your younger self? And so I'm gonna quantify this. I'm gonna say I'm talking to my 22-year-old self. And so when I was 22 years old, I finished university and I graduated in 2008 and I wanted to get into banking, which was probably the worst time to want to get into finance. Obviously couldn't find a job. And I was just so defeated and frustrated and just felt like all of my plans just were thrown out the window. And I think when you're 22 years old, you have this idea of when you finish university and you go into the real world, that everything is just gonna go according to plan. And when that didn't happen, I was just really not happy. And so to her, I would say, don't worry, things aren't gonna go according to plan. You're gonna take so many detours and you're not gonna understand what any of those jobs or any of those people or any of those friends that came and left your life mean, but they're all gonna take you to this wonderful place and you're gonna enjoy the journey. You're gonna have a couple of tough years, but it's gonna be fine. You're gonna get through it. Lean on your friends, lean on your family, and just try to enjoy as much of the journey as possible. That's what I would tell her. You once said you had your life planned out and life happened. How did you cope with that? It was hard. And I think as I've grown older, I've realized that things not going according to your plan or how you had it in your head is sometimes the greatest blessing in the world because it's taking you on a detour that is going to take you to a place or a destination that you might have never imagined for yourself, but is actually way better than anything you'd imagined. I always think about if I had gotten that job in London, you know, my high-paying banker job, making lots of money and hating it because I'm not into that world. And I feel like if I had gone down that route, I would have really liked the money and the success and the status that came with it, but not enjoyed the job. But I would have been stuck because I would have just kept, you know, trying harder to get promoted and just like climbing that corporate ladder. And I'm so glad it didn't work out because I was able to then try different industries, different jobs, you know, really get my feet wet in things that I didn't even think were jobs and that I might enjoy. And it all led me to this point where I don't know what the next step is, but I'm really enjoying my work life and my career right now. And I couldn't have imagined that this was even an option. It would have never been on my radar. You know, you've got to give it your all. It doesn't mean that you give up. You give it your all. If you have a goal or if you have a picture in mind of what you want, you give it your all. But there is this point at which, you know, you're like, okay, I've done everything I can and I'm just gonna see what the universe, fate, God has in store for me. And, you know, staying open to maybe things are better than you could have ever imagined. After the advent of Saree drape videos, there is a higher need for drapes to be perfect. Your views. So my personal opinion is that whenever I went to events as a little girl, I would look at all of the different people wearing saris, and I felt like every drape looked different on every body because everyone drapes a little different and everyone has a certain style. I mean, you know, 3 people can wear the exact same top and pants and look completely different because they have accessorized it differently or they have a different body type or whatever. So I feel like there's always a better way to do something, and I don't think it hurts to know what that is and then make it your own. So it's like saying, well, I don't want to learn how to cook because I want to, you know, make my own flavors. But it's like, no, you have to learn the basics. You have to know what flavors go together. You have to know what the techniques are, what the tools are. And I think after learning as much as you can about something, then you can be a chef. I remember when I was growing up, there was no one doing saree drape videos. Now there are so many people, and I am so glad that people are willing to share that, but also just for our future generations, because we don't wear saris every day. And thank God for the internet, where people are logging, Amma's recipes and the way to wear saris and things that will live on forever beyond our lifetimes, which I think is a way to preserve our culture. So I think it has brought up the need to have perfect drapes, but I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I think it's how you interpret it and how you make it your own after learning how it's supposed to be done. When did you find out that you wanted to be an entrepreneur? I have known that I wanted to do something for myself since probably grade 10. But I have to give you a little bit of a backstory. I wanted to be an astronaut. I wanted to be a teacher. I wanted to be a McDonald's cashier. I wanted to be all kinds of things. And then I think in probably middle school, I wanted to be a lawyer. I was always very opinionated. So all of my aunts and uncles, my teachers would be like, oh my God, you should be a lawyer. Like how adults say to children who are opinionated. I knew that if I chose a particular career path, like a lawyer or an astronaut, I could be different kinds of lawyers, but I would be closing every other door to me, and I would literally have only the lawyer doors open or the astronaut doors open or whatever. And I didn't want that. I knew that I wanted variety and the ability to be like, nope, I don't want to do this anymore, let's do this. And I think it was the greatest decision I made for myself. Yeah, I always just knew I wanted to be in business for myself one day, but I also knew that I wanted to work for other people, like big businesses, so I could figure out how they work from the inside out and then apply how they work to my own business. So I'd say grade 10 to answer the question, and that's the whole story. Okay, so how hard is it to start a business, and what tips would you give someone else? So first and foremost, I think you have to be really interested and be really passionate about whatever it is that you're doing. Whether you're providing a service or selling a product, the one thing that you will have as a competitive advantage over anybody else that wants to do that is if you are really interested and it lights a fire within you, then it's no longer just work, it's play. And so you will be able to work 17-hour days and not feel burnout because you love it so much. I'm not saying that's the healthiest thing to do, and I've had to put in serious, breaks to be like, this is family time, this is work time, and I think that's still important. So if you find that, okay, this will make me a lot of money, but you don't really like it, I would say you're not gonna hold out for as long as it's gonna take for you to be successful. So that's number one. Whatever you choose to do, make sure it's something that you yourself are interested in. Number two, whatever you started in, make sure you will be customer number one. If you are not a user or a customer of your business, then you're not gonna know how to pivot, take it to the next level, and do all the things that you need to do in order to just really keep growing and keep scaling. And I've said this throughout my journey, any product that we've introduced, it's literally to scratch my own itch. It's like, I want this, and so there are probably so many other women that want it too. I think those are my two biggest things for starting. Once you started, growing the team is the next biggest thing that I always get asked about. And I'll be the first to tell you, it is the hardest thing you'll do. But if you choose the right people, they're going to take you further than you could have ever gone alone. One thing I learned at my previous job, we always hired for personality and attitude than really skills. Because skills, for the most part, you can teach, unless it's very specialized skills, and yeah, you want to hire for that too. But between two people who are equally qualified, you always want to hire for personality and attitude, because those are things that you can't really teach. A person could be great, but may not be a great fit for your team and your culture and what you want to do. It's not easy, it's a lot of hard work, and I feel like all of entrepreneurship is the highest highs and the lowest lows. So if you can read books and have a life coach or a business coach to get you and a really good friend group and a great supportive partner or parent or people you can talk to get you through those lows, and a great team as well, then you're gonna be able to enjoy the highs that much more. But it doesn't really mean it's like, business isn't this. It's this constantly at every level. So if you're not signed up mentally for that, and that's not what you want, you're just in it for the money, or you just wanna get in and then retire, I feel like you're just not gonna hold out for as long as it'll take to be really successful. So, those are things that surprised me. I didn't know it was gonna be like that. I thought it would be like, oh, we're gonna struggle and then go boom. No, it's never like that. It's a lot of this. But I think I've grown to love the challenges and almost use those lows to kind of catapult yourself even higher. And I think if you can work yourself and your mindset in that way, then the world's your oyster and the sky is the limit. Who inspires you and why? So growing up, I used to watch Oprah with my mom every day after school. I feel like in some ways she raised me as well, because she would just have, some of those topics were probably not appropriate for 11, 12-year-olds, but I learned a lot. Manage your emotions and manage your mindset. So I think that started because of Oprah and my interest in all things self-development and self-growth. But over the years, so many impressive women and men, everyone from Michelle Obama and Sarah Blakely to Tim Ferriss, Derek Sivers. These are just podcasters and people's books who I've read. A lot of the people who are interviewed on how I built this, I'm an entrepreneur now, so I feel like so much of what they talk about, where literally every day is like this, that's my life. So I draw a lot of inspiration from that. And Guy Raz is an amazing interviewer. And everyday people, I find so much inspiration from my team, from my friends, from my mom. I think there's something to be learned from everyone. And last but definitely not least, Tony. He is the greatest partner for me because he really supports me and he inspires me to just push myself. I'll come up with these crazy ideas that I'm almost expecting him or wanting him to shoot down, and he'll be like, that sounds like a really big dream. Like, you're gonna have to work really hard for that. So he is an amazing partner for me. And yeah, I think just surrounding yourself with people who plays to different aspects of you and really ignite those different parts of you to be your best self. How did you hire the Tia Bhuva team? What qualities did you look for? So for us, back in 2019, early 2019, I had just given birth to Xavi, and I was really looking for someone to take over a lot of the social media. And so Alicia came along, we hired her. Really, I loved her proactive approach. So she emailed with like an action plan of what she could change within the business. So that was number one. And then just in talking to her, I really liked talking to her. And so it was a very easy decision. We started off as contract, and I think that's a great option for entrepreneurs, especially if you're wondering, can I afford a hire? Do I have the budget to pay someone? A contract work or by hour is actually a great way for you to understand how much of your job and task can you delegate and how much can you afford. If you're a new business, doing it gradually and getting used to the idea of delegating as well as having that extra expense, but also an expense that could, grow leaps and bounds for you in terms of your business. So I don't really think of it as an expense, it's an investment in people. And if you are a young new business, you are most likely operating out of your home, as were we. And so I really needed to hire people I trusted, and it had to be a really close group knit of people who could all get along really well together. So I remember when I was at my corporate jobs, people would be like, if you have friends, let us know. And you can actually get it was like referral programs for employees. And now I get it, because I'm like, hey, you're a great person. If you know more great people, let me know, because we have a job for them. And that's literally how we grew our team, our fulfillment and operations team. Actually, everyone knows each other or is related. It's literally friends of friends. And so it's also led for a great culture. And also, if when you do go on LinkedIn or any of these job boards and you don't have a common connection, I think then asking really good questions like, yes, okay, you have all the technical skills I need or we're looking for as a business, but what are the personality traits? What books and podcasts and things are you listening to? And things like that. I think those answers can also tell you a lot about a person and what it's going to be like to work with that person, because when you're working together, you're seeing them sometimes more than you see your family, so you've really got to like everyone on your team. And recently I've been listening to a lot of Naval Ravikant's podcasts and interviews, and in it, I think he said something that's really good, in that if you can't see yourself working with someone for life, why would you work with someone for a day? And I know that sounds really extreme, but it's a long-term view and a long-term question, so you really go out to invest time to hire and find the right people for yourself and your business. How do you overcome bad days and big obstacles? So I'll answer that in two parts. So the bad days, usually it's because something is going wrong. I try to pinpoint what that is, and if I can do something about it, I will. So make a call, answer an email, take actions, do something to make myself feel better and make the situation better. The bigger things where I can't really pinpoint why I'm not feeling well, I try to think of this passage in this picture, and you can look it up. If you Google Carl Sagan, the pale blue dot, you'll see this picture of planet Earth as the Voyager is leaving our solar system. And it's this like tiny little speck of dust. For me, that passage, that picture puts into perspective how short our lives are, how small we are in the universe. We have such a short period of time to really live, bring joy to ourselves and those around us. And whatever we're worrying about on a day-to-day basis, even though it may seem really big in the moment, it really isn't. And it just provides me some perspective, basically what gets me through the bigger bad days. I'm so confused about my career path, would love some advice on what to do. And the second one is advice for a business graduate struggling to get a job. So I see myself in both of those questions. I remember graduating and not knowing what I wanted to do. I worked in accounting for this company, and then I worked in marketing for HP, worked in fund valuations for Citi, and then worked as pricing analyst for Walmart, and I really enjoyed that job. So then decided to stay with that company and grow. And I say this because I moved around a lot, like a lot of different industries. So from tech to staffing, to finance. And I think it's really important to do that at the beginning of your career. You have this time where you've just graduated and you can sample. And if you didn't take your internships to do that, I would say do that within the first 2 to 3 years, because here you are young, very little responsibilities, and you're just starting your career. So you have that option to do that, and you can find out really early on if you like something or if you don't. And I would say if you can get into a startup, because there's no other place that you will learn as much as you will in a startup, because you'll be given so much responsibility and just so much exposure to what goes on in running a business. I feel like for me, when I was graduating university, I was like, there's gotta be this one thing that I can do that is just going to be my life purpose and bring me so much joy, and it's just gonna answer all my questions. And that is not the case for most people. For most people, we have very different, interests and things that we wanna do, and they will change as you grow throughout your life. So don't think about your whole life. Think about what interests you today, what skills do you have to offer. Go find something that's gonna bring you joy, but also pay you, and you can put your skills to use, and just keep building from there. You don't have to figure out the whole staircase, just take that first step. Wow, okay. How did you decide it was the right time to have a baby and a company? I don't know if I have the answer. I don't think there is a right time. You're never ready for either. You just gotta do it. You gotta just decide and start. Yeah, especially with the baby, you don't really decide. Like, I think a week before I delivered, I was like, am I even ready to be a mom? But you just do it. I don't think there's a right time. I think it's the same way for a company. You can wait your whole life. You can be like, I'm gonna read all these podcasts and all these books and talk to all these people. And once I'm equipped with all of the knowledge, I'm going to start. And it's never how it happens. You learn so much more from getting started, than you could ever learn from listening to other people's experiences. So if there's something you want to do with your life, I would say get a little bit of research done, a little tiny bit. And once you know what the next step is, just go and do that next step. And then when you get to the next step, you'll kind of and obviously as you go along, you research each step, but don't plan out your whole journey and then be like, I'm gonna start. It's never gonna happen. You're gonna be 95 and waiting to start your company. How did you calm yourself down when it took longer to meet someone? So there's a little bit of a story behind this. And the summer before I met Tony, my mom made me go on so many first dates. The broker sets you up, and anyway, none of them worked out really. I came to the conclusion that I would rather be single and happy than with the wrong person and unhappy. And I think that's so important to say, I think especially within our culture, because there's this just pressure to get married by a certain age, and if you're not married, what's wrong with you? And I think I got to that point not because I wanted to meet someone, but because I truly believed that I would rather be happy and single than unhappy with the wrong person and married. I remember going to lunch or dinner with a couple of my friends and saying, hey, what's wrong with having test tube babies? Because I really wanted to be a mom. That was really important to me. But I was like, I think I was 27 or 28. I'm like, maybe I won't meet somebody in the time that I should, try to have a baby. And they all just looked at me like, your mom's gonna kill you. And I'm like, yes, you're right. And I think it's important to come to that conclusion and really just focus on yourself. And for me, getting married was important. Would I rather be married or unmarried? Yes, I would rather be married, because I also wanted to start a family and have a family and become a mom and be in a loving relationship. Who doesn't want that? But I think it's also important, I don't think we put enough emphasis and importance on developing great friendships with your friends. Having good, strong female friendships, I think, is so important. And also just working on yourself, reading, taking up classes, just, you're waiting to meet this perfect person. And there's this podcast I was listening to, it's like, you're waiting to meet this perfect person that meets all of your requirements, but are you that perfect person? Like, you become that amazing person so that you can automatically attract and will attract that person. And that made a lot of sense to me. And it also gets you into developing, just interests and hobbies and loves of your own that is outside of this great quest to meet Mr. Right. Yeah, once I met Tony, it was pretty much like really quick. We were older, so we knew exactly what we wanted. Yeah, it's hard. I don't have any answers for how to deal with parents or those questions at weddings, like, oh, your daughter's like late 20s and she's still single. Like, yes, it's really hard. But I think I just, got into this mindset of I'm just not gonna get married to just anyone just because I'm supposed to and I have to. I would rather just wait for someone who I think is really, my mom says, oh, you're looking for chemistry, physics. She used to say that all the time. And she's like, what is chemistry? Like, you like someone, like, this guy is such a good guy. He's, from a good family. He has a good heart. He's attractive. I'm like, yes, but you have to have attraction to the person. So I would say just, focus on yourself. Go on vacations and, well, not during COVID, but go on vacations and hang out with your friends and really build those relationships virtually for now. And then when the time comes, you will be, what's the word? You'll be ready. All of that to say, I really internalized that I would prioritize my happiness. So happy and single, instead of society's expectations or even your parents' expectations. I feel like my parents always had their best interest for me, but I also just needed to really get clear on what I wanted and prioritize my own happiness. So that would be my answer. You can really shorten that. Wow, oh my God, how do people do this all day? This is really draining. I feel like I've been talking for 3 years. How do YouTubers do this?